Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Connor. I'm here to do a movie review for American Animals. This just came out in a theater near me, finally. The only theater it was at before that was a theater in New York City, so I would have had to go all the way there to see this. But they finally released it for about a week or so near me, so I finally got to see this movie, which I've really been looking forward to. So, American Animals is directed by Bart Layton, and if you haven't heard that name before, it's because this is his first feature film. He wrote and directed it. Before then, Bart Layton was doing a lot of documentaries. He was doing a lot of documentaries about people in prison, documentaries about people who have been held captive abroad. I haven't seen it. I just looked up his IMDb, basically. This movie stars Evan Peters and Barry Keoghan, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't want to get that wrong. It's Keegan I think it's Keoghan. Connor, you're an English major. You should know this. The guy's from Ireland. You know, people from Ireland have names that when you read them, they look like they're a certain pronunciation, but they're really not. Anyway, so this movie is about the true story of two college freshmen who were friends back in 2003. One of them went to University of Kentucky. The other one went to Transylvanian University. They're freshmen in college, and if you remember your freshman years in college, you were young, you were impressionable, you really didn't know what kind of a person you are, you didn't know who you were, you didn't know what you wanted to do. You're basically a nervous wreck. If it was anything like my college freshman years, you were a nervous wreck. Now, the basic plot is that these two college freshmen, because they lack so much direction, they decide, hey, let's rob these rare books from the Transylvanian University Library. And so this whole movie is about how that plan came together and how it affected them as people. Now, I'll just get some obvious stuff out of the way. The acting in this movie is very good. I've been following Evan Peters since watching him in American Horror Story. He pretty much steals every scene that he's in that show. So when I saw that he was in this movie, I was really looking forward to seeing what he could bring to a feature film. Barry Keoghan I'd only seen in Dunkirk. If you saw that movie, he was one of the kids on the boat. But they both delivered these really, really great performances. And also, Dowd is in this movie too, which was really cool to see because she's been killing it lately. American Animals has a really interesting style of direction. You see this story portrayed through the eyes of these two freshmen, but because this guy has such a big documentary background, you get real people from the actual events in the movie and they're being interviewed. So you get to see their perspective, you get to see the character's perspective. It's really cool. And what's also interesting is that because you're seeing this story from so many angles, from the people that were there and from the characters, sometimes maybe that story's not always reliable. So you get all these interesting little asides that the director does where you can't tell whose perspective is actually right on what happened. And you get to see what were the motivations behind the characters, and that's really what the mystery of this movie is. Why did they do this? And you're sitting there the whole time and you're like, I can't believe this shit happened, but it did, and it's nuts. And just because of that reason, I have to say this was a really interesting and cool movie. There's not a whole lot of movies that take this kind of documentary style to filmmaking the way that a feature film like this does. Now, while this was a really fun, really cool movie, I did have a few flaws with it. The big problem was for most of the movie, I didn't really find myself caring about the characters as much as I should have. I didn't find myself rooting for them, which it could be argued that you're really not supposed to root for these characters. The whole time you're like, what are you doing, you idiots? Don't do that. This is such a bad idea. I just wish the director did a better job of making us care about these people. And by the end, I think you do. You care a lot more about the characters because you get to see it through the real people's eyes who were there, through the interviews that are being done in the film. But at the same time, you know, I was mostly just entertained by this movie, but I didn't really feel attached to any of the characters for the most part. Another flaw, and I have to say, this movie uses comedy really well a lot of the time. There's a bunch of absurd moments that are happening. Again, you're watching it and you're like, I can't believe this happened, and it did. And there's these funny little moments that happen in the film that are used really well. There was unexpected comedy everywhere that I didn't think would be in the movie. And sometimes that comedy worked, but there were times where it felt a little out of place, a little awkward. For the most part, it worked. So this is only just a small flaw. But sometimes it just was a little awkward, or it didn't seem to fit in that moment. Overall, though, I really like this movie. I think that if you have a theater near you that's playing it, you should definitely go see it before it goes out of theaters. It's definitely worth your time to see, just because it's a really interesting movie. Because, like I said, there's not a lot of movies that are made like this, where a very small part of the movie is documentary and then most of it is made like a film. Overall, I'd say I give this movie a B. Um, you know, I really enjoyed this movie. Like I said, you should definitely go see it if it's near you. I really applaud this movie for just being different than a lot of movies you'll see this year. And for that, it's definitely worth your time. It's definitely worth going to see. I really enjoyed the acting. I really enjoyed the story. It's so nuts. Like, even sitting here now, I'm thinking, like, I can't believe that this happened, and it's weird that it didn't really make the news, but it happened. It's nuts. So if you guys have seen American Animals, what did you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.